about to just, give an
I
update.
want to highlight them all in 10 days out. Like, I want to highlight 10 days out. He spent $6,000. Now, I would have liked them to see them close.
They were starting to have permission from the building and, you know.
Text me or phone him.
Okay, so I'll just text you.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
No, just
Yeah, we're starting at the water line. That's for, is it the water line? Yeah, it's just a prototype. Yep. Yep, because there's a high density seniors there. So we're gonna, and Pat lives there, her husband. She's there, so the prototype is literally just a test. Figure out how to organize, pick one thing, butter, and do one, and then do it, and then evaluate. That's it for the test. So it makes sense to do it somewhere.
Oh, okay.
No, not for the north. The north is naturally occurring. We're talking about ASC. You're thinking the retrofit, yeah, that's the other. You get so much support for that.
Okay, that's the one that I really want. Oh my gosh. And I think they're 7 days. Oh, demographic. You said you would do it.
I do.
How are you
I don't know. That's all good. Okay, yeah. And then, but I still should have the vibes.
The building.
Yeah,
Cool. Look them up.
Just had to do it. I took them recently.
Our project they're bringing with them all sorts of expertise, but also I
like have a design team and everything?
well, they have, what they've done is they've created best practices and, you know, and deep sort of policy changes, but toolkits. But they also are working with another organization called Gibsons, which is all
I was like, I ended up coming home and I realized I had
you guys got this right, and they're like,
so we have
and then I come down here, I'm like,
support to be able to do so they're doing really
well, then I went back up there, I was like,
back to the school.
stand down.
got letters of support and fines. You know, so
I'm grateful you're here.
Yeah, no, I can do. I can make it. So.
I'll be happy when this next week.
Yeah, 20 days.
I think it just had to
Really?
and then just see if anybody wants to talk.
I am going to call our Town of Gibsons Committee of the Whole meeting to order for 3:30 p.m. And we're honored to be gathered here today on the traditional territories of the Skokomish Nation on October 22nd, 2024. First, we need to approve the agenda. I think it's, I don't think we have any. I'll take the, moved by Director Kroll, seconded by Director DeAndrade. Oh man, I've been at the, I gotta switch back to off SCRD. Yeah, I always call them counselors too. So all those in favor? All those opposed? That motion carries. Yeah, well, it carries either way, Councillor Lumley, sorry. And we've got 3 delegations today, so that's why I've been trying to get us started on time. Our first delegation is Cover the Coast and the Affordable Housing Society. Kelly Foley and Kim Darwin are joining us to present. Thanks for coming.
Hi, thanks for having us. And first of all, really want to thank the Town of Gibsons for your partnership. Your support for SCOS and affordable housing is really being seen now as we see tenants moving into Shaw Place. So thank you for that. And we're really here today, I guess, really we've really enjoyed working on our construction projects. In fact, with the ones that we have in the pipeline now, I expect we'll have about 120 units for the Sunshine Coast, including some that we're doing in Seashelt. And this has all been done on basically off the side of the desk of volunteers predominantly. And we would like to do more. We know that the town of Gibsons, is challenging all of the developers to also have affordable housing components. And some of those developers contact us and go, oh, we need your help. And we don't have the capacity. So I'm going to cut to the chase today so that we don't get the hook before our 5 minutes is up. We're really here to say we would like you to help us help you. And what we need to do is to basically expand from a working board to a governance and oversight board. And our ask today, and we're going to be making, we already met with the Sunshine Coast Regional District. We'll be meeting with the District of Seashelt tomorrow. We're looking for funding for 1 year to hire an executive director and a part-time administrator so that they can put all the pieces in place so that we can really transition from the working board to a governance board so that we can be the authority for affordable housing for the entire Sunshine Coast. You've got the slides in front of you. You see all of the work that Kelly's been doing we're basically overseeing what Kelly's doing. So if you haven't heard of the NORCs and seen the prototype that she's working on with the workforce housing group, those are two incredible projects that can be replicated throughout the entire Sunshine Coast. They're both designed for our demographics and are amazing housing solutions for the Sunshine Coast. So I'm not really going to belabor what's in the slides, but essentially that's what we're looking for. We'd really like to expand as an organization to help all of the municipalities fulfill their mandates with affordable housing. And also congratulations on getting the accelerator funds. That not all communities got the yes on that. So perhaps that could be an area where you could seek funding in order to help us with our ask. And happy to answer any questions that you might have seen in the slides.
Okay, I'll just ask, if this is one-time funding, where does the funding come from after that? What's the?
Well, I'd like to go for ongoing funding, but for now, we just really would like to set the pieces in place in order to get us in the position where we can be an organization that's guided by an executive director, and that executive director would likely be sitting in front of you at some point in time within the next year, looking for ongoing funding.
But there are alternatives. I just want to be clear. Yeah. That's why it's so important that the ask is 1 year. There's different models. I've done quite a bit of research on this to try to understand what the options are for a nonprofit housing organization. So there's a model where essentially you create enough inventory that you're able to take a bit of rent off of each of those units, and that subsidizes your administration costs, including your executive director. So that's building capacity and the number of units. The other is developing programming, similar model to, say, community services, where they have a lot of programming. In the programming, there's admin fees associated with that are used to support an executive director. So those are two models that I'm aware of. But essentially the ask is to have the capacity, have that person that does the work to really figure this out.
Thanks, Kelly.
Councillor D'Andretti.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, thanks for the report. I appreciate where this is going, and I totally agree. It cannot be just a volunteer organization forever, at least at this level, right? So, Mayor, I would like to see if there is a possibility in getting the funding from the accelerator fund.
We have a long-standing policy not to. And this isn't my idea. This is a long-standing policy before I came on council that we don't immediately respond by motions to delegations.
Oh, okay, yes, you're right. Okay, so I was just curious if this is feasible in terms of legality of the fund. That was interesting understanding.
From what we've looked at, it aligns with what you've said you'd like to do with the accelerated funds. So not wanting to get a vote right now, but we do believe that it does, but we'll leave it up to you to explore that further.
And I'm open to any questions if anybody has any questions about the.
Yeah, I'll coordinate the questions. Councillor Lumley?
Yeah, through the mayor, I was wondering, I know we've had discussions about the MRDT tax, which a portion of it, like, my question might be, and I'm not sure if you guys can answer it, but are we gonna start overlapping? You know, we've got these funds coming in for affordable housing, and then we're gonna get some more funds coming in from affordable housing. If there's gonna be one, my only question would be if there's gonna be one entity or one group for the whole Sunshine Coast, the only question in my head was why wouldn't the MRDT tax fund it? I'm not sure if you can answer that, but anyway, that was my question.
Yeah, that's been an ongoing conversation. And we are, the council has expressed interest in trying to find out more about the MRDT funds and how they're allocated in other communities. And I mean, basically, our understanding at the moment is they tend to go into affordable housing funds for different municipalities. So then those municipalities are able to allocate it. Our affordable housing fund, I mean, regardless of where it's being funded from, is very low at the moment. So that's a definite challenge for us. It's not like we're sitting on some reserves here. We could certainly talk about the accelerator fund in the future. We're not going to make any resolutions today, but I think it would have to include some of those commitments that we've made to the federal government actually being performed by the organization rather than consultants, which we might otherwise be giving the funds to, or rather than internally, which might save us some staff time. So I think that's something maybe our planning department could look into for us.
Can I just circle back to the MRDTP? Kelly's role with SCOS is actually funded through a flow-through program that the Sunshine Coast Regional District gets from Tourism BC. So there is a precedent for that already with the way that Kelly's being paid.
I think it's part of the challenge is we're not necessarily convinced it's flow through, and I think we need to probably talk to Destination BC and the Ministry of Finance about this. It's in other areas, and ours is complex because we've got Powell River and Catet Regional District and District of Sechelt, Sunshine Coast Regional District, all part of Sunshine Coast Tourism, and then apparently the Ministry of Finance just sends them a lump fund for everything that's raised from the MRDT for that entire region. And then they split it in half and just send half to Powell River and half to the Sunshine Coast. And there's like no actual data or anything involved in saying, okay, well, here's the amount of money that came from Powell River, here's the amount of money that came from the lower coast, and it's being divvied out fairly that way. So that's a concern we have, and I think it's probably a concern SCAG should share, because half the money is going to Powell River. I'm not sure half the revenue is from Powell River.
The population is distorted also. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So, and the flow-through aspect, I don't know if it's exactly, I mean, flow-through is like when people make a donation to a charity, and it kind of goes, or an organization, it isn't a charity, and it might go through the town of Gibsons to get charitable status, whereas I think often this is funding that goes straight to municipalities. So we wouldn't exactly consider it flow-through. It is a decision being made at least the SCRD level that this is local government funds that are allocated to a nonprofit.
Okay.
Any other questions on this? I thought I might have had, yeah.
If you haven't really looked at the NORCs there, anybody, if you have any questions on the NORCs, that is really a great program that Kelly's working on. And the retrofit one as well. Those are the prototype one. Really exciting for our community. Yeah.
I've had opportunity to ask those at the table, so in the past, yeah. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciated in this the outline of short-term, mid, and long-term. It was nice to see that, there's a lot of consideration being given and how that flows through. Under the secure one-year transitional funding in the Ways to Thrive, produce a 5-year real estate development plan. Can you speak more to that?
Well, essentially, we've been doing developments just sort of as they come up, but really having a strategy with everything around it, how we're going to manage it, how everything is going to work, really should be something that we're doing instead of sort of flying by the seat of our pants as we really have been now, as opportunities arise. We have been approved for the rental protection or part of British Columbia funding. So we now have been approved for that type of funding. And we would like to strategically go out and perhaps purchase buildings that are in jeopardy of being taken out of the rental pool. We just viewed a property in Seashelt on Friday and are really hoping to be able to take over some of the older rental stock and bring it up to snuff. So that would be all part of that strategic planning for the future.
How large is the building in Seashell?
I meant to look that up before I came. It's between 20 and 30 units.
Okay, yeah. 'Cause I mean, that's just obviously a challenge for smaller communities to participate in that program, as it's kind of designed to
But we do know there's
fit the
one in
needs
the
of Burnaby and stuff. And meanwhile, our apartment buildings have like 5 units in them.
Well, there is
Yeah,
one up
that's-
the road that I'm sure you would like somebody else to take over and bring up to snuff as well. I think it has a bylaw contravention notice on it right now.
Yeah, and I know that's part of the challenge. I understand that's part of the challenge too, is if
There
something's
is
not.
funding, though. I think it's 15,000 per door that we can get to retrofit and bring things up to code. So we could re-explore that one as we get more familiar with the program.
We've been engaging with you on that one and we'll continue to, for sure. And thanks for coming to present.
So much.
Okay, next we have Chief Michael. Already Q3 report.
Thank you. Indeed, Q3 already. The membership has remained strong in the department over the past few quarters. Part of the strong membership numbers has been former members returning to active duty. Members may leave the department for a multitude of reasons, but they're also welcome back to rejoin if they desire. The department has seen several members return this year. They're put through a skills assessment and fast-tracked to response status as safely as possible. I've tried to highlight major repairs and maintenance in the quarterly reports, as this line item is struggling to stay within budget, despite a lift in the last year. I've added a picture on page 10 of the report where fleet maintenance was called in the middle of the night to repair a broken down fire truck. The fuel lift pump was identified as the cause and was quickly brought back into service for a few $1,000s. Tire replacements on fire trucks have proven to be costly, and unfortunately these types of repairs cannot be neglected, as fire department vehicles must always remain in mission critical readiness. The focus of training for this quarter was emergency vehicle operations, vehicle extrication, ladder skills, and emergency scene management. On July 13th, Sunshine Coast Fire Departments participated in a joint wildfire training exercise. Crews from the region put together a structured defense task force, and a crew from Pemberton came across the ferry to participate as well. The training was essential in the region's efforts to prepare for local wildfire emergencies. The fire department responded to 107 calls for service in the third quarter. This compared to 98 calls for service the same period a year before. Notable incidents included a vehicle into a building, 2 simultaneous calls for smoke inside of structures requiring mutual aid from Roberts Creek, a jet ski accident, a fuel spill at a local gas station, and another fuel spill at the local marina. This year, the province requested command staff and a structure protection crew. A total of 5 members at a time were deployed for up to 14 days, with 1 crew change required due to the length of the deployment. Not only do the crews get satisfaction from assisting with protecting the province, but they gain valuable experience that can be utilized locally if a significant event were to happen on the Sunshine Coast. The fire prevention team completed 52 fire and life safety inspections, 18 referrals, and 2 investigations. And in addition, 3 pre-incident plans were completed last quarter, bringing the total to 43. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you. As always, a very thorough report, so we have less and less questions the more thorough the reports are, which we'll probably see later too. That seems to be the trend we're heading in. But I see Councillor Kroll ready to press this button.
Thank you, Mayor White. I'm just wondering, in your report, you reference the training area that is on Henry Road and that there's still a pending lease. And I don't know whether it's a question for you or staff where we are with that lease.
Through the chair. It's always through the chair, remember.
Yes. Because I'm assuming that can you use the area? And if you can't use it, are you having to go to Roberts Creek and Seashell for training?
Not sure we have staff who can really shed light on that here today, but we'll go to Chief Michael.
Thank you. So happy to take that one on. A bit of an outstanding process, I should say, that I've left in my report, which doesn't mean that we're not working together and cooperating. So I think it was maybe a quarter and a half ago, a few months ago, that we did meet with the town CAO and Director of Infrastructure and talk about some site improvements and plans to that area. And the town has been very welcoming of the fire department nonetheless. So I think that there's some formalization that might be required before we would want to invest additional time and energy and money into the facility. But we are welcome up there. We're welcome to use it, and it is functional for what we're trying to do. So I think the last thing I want to highlight is, again, that ongoing cooperation and collaboration with town, which I have no concerns about.
Yeah, it's been a conversation with the SCRD as well about the future of the Greenway site and how that might, looking at improving that service to have a scale and maybe other services offered there as well. But that discussion has definitely died down, particularly since the personnel changes there with the CAO leaving. It just hasn't been it's been a conversation that stopped and hasn't been picked up again in recent months. So it might again, and I'm sure it will in the future, but it's been quiet. Any other questions for the chief? Well, thank you again for being here. Next, we have Staff Sergeant Prunty here with the Q3 statistics for the RCMP.
How's that? Great. So you have the stats before you. Again, just a refresher, the reason that there's no comparables there is because of the difference in the areas marked off for last year versus this year, where we found that we were actually including some areas of Elphinstone within our stats last year. So that's why you've got no comparables this year, because we want to keep the data accurate. So you do have month over month stats here for each category. nothing alarming showing. The most frequent call is for suspicious persons, which is a bit of a catch-all for any kind of activity that people just would like the police to come and check out. Not necessarily criminal in nature. I'll carry on with the rest of the report and then come back to any questions about the stats. In staffing news, I'm very happy to say that we are fully staffed now. Our last transfer was announced just this week. So we've got a few new members that have joined us. 2 are cadets coming out of depot, so newly graduated RCMP constables. And then we have Constable Jake Chorm, who's come from Richmond with quite a bit of experience behind him and an extensive resume in property crime specifically. So we're really happy to have him join our team. In terms of new initiatives, we've partnered with the 529 Garage, which is a bicycle registration system. It's an app essentially that works in Canada and the US, where people can individually register their bikes online, and police have access to that repository in terms of if we're recovering bikes, we're able to match the owners to the bikes, and they can also share information with each other there as well. You'll see more information coming out about that and sort of more of a publicity awareness piece from us as we finalize the details on the costing of the registration sticker. The program itself is free, but to get the sticker, there's a bit of a fee involved, so we're trying to access some sources of grants and that type of thing to cover that to start with. In terms of police visibility, we conducted 54 proactive bike and foot patrols in the town of Gibsons. We have the 2 e-bikes, which are very popular with our members, especially in Gibsons. Yeah, definitely necessary. And we've also had several boat patrols out this summer as well. We're also going through a period of training with the boat right now, so you'll see our boat out and about in the days and the nights while we do some navigation training. In terms of traffic safety, we've had Highway Patrol over. They're trying to do every month, come over and do some proactive enforcement. Their vehicles are equipped with automated license plate readers, which will note if any vehicle is not insured or if there's a prohibited driver attached to that vehicle. And that is all I have for you, unless you have any questions.
Great. Well, I've already seen you twice in the past 24 hours, so I don't have any more questions.
You're tired of me.
But we've got other councillors here. Councillor Kroll.
Thank you for the report. This is sort of a bit silly, but have you folks been evaluating murder in a small town?
Well, I have, and I'm offended by the cardigan. No, in all seriousness, though, what a great opportunity to showcase the area. The photography is outstanding. So, but yes, I do kind of laugh at the difference between myself and their chief.
Yeah, it's an interesting depiction for sure. Councillor Kroll.
On a more serious note, the 529 Garage is a great program, and I would encourage our student council to promote it at the high school because it's, the price of bikes these days, anything that you can do to ensure. I assume you have your e-bikes already registered?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Councillor DeAndrade.
Thank you, Mayor. So just first, I would like to confirm all the data now being presented about Gibsons is in Gibsons.
Correct.
Awesome.
Yes.
So that's perfect, yeah. So my next question is I'm just trying to understand, when you get the totals for service, I mean, if you add the numbers presented here are different than the total presented on the table. So, and it's a big discrepancy, so I'm sure it's accounted for something else, but I don't know.
Yeah, there are other types of files that are not necessarily accounted in here. It could be anything. It could be criminal record check or pick queries. It could be anything, but we don't report on everything for the reports on council, so it's the ones that are not accounted for here.
More administrative things, it sounds like. They're less of a public interest concern. I
Correct,
guess,
yeah, we've sort of filtered this to the main meat and potatoes of our work.
Councillor Andrade?
Thank you. That regards the app. I was not aware of this app, and I think it's fantastic. So are you aware if the bikes, when they sell bikes, if they promote the app or who is promoting the app? I never heard about that. I have no idea how old is this app or how new is this app.
Yeah, it's been around for a while. When I worked in Duncan, 15 years ago, they'd sort of just started this, and apparently it's grown quite a bit. Vancouver PD heavily promotes it. And then the people who run the app themselves, the way that they generate their revenue is through advertising on the website as well as the sale of the registration stickers. So.
Any other questions? Great, you're done.
All right.
Thank you.
You're
done. You're done your succession of council or local government meetings for this month, for this quarter. And now we are on to the main agenda, reports. And we've got our quarterly reports at this meeting, and we're starting with the Planning and Development Services Department quarter 3 report. Mostly we go straight to questions unless there's something to highlight or something new to update. Well, I'll just go to staff on that.
Thank you, Mayor. So I don't have to go over everything in this report. I do want to highlight this week we're going to be beginning the OCP engagement. So that's really exciting. It's going to be the planning department is all involved, and we're also pulling the communications coordinator in as well. So tomorrow is the first pop-up at Sunnycrest from 2:30 to 4:30. And then on Thursday, we're going to the high school, so that's really exciting for us. We're gonna get about 60 to 75 kids per session, and we're gonna have 2 sessions. And so we're going to be able to reach grade 8 through 12 and get their feedback on visioning and values for the OCP, which is a really awesome experience for the town and for the high school, hopefully. We're also going to be in the library on Friday, Tap Works in the evening next Monday, and then we're going to piggyback on the hockey game at the rec center on November 8th to try and get some feedback from folks that wouldn't necessarily come out and talk to us. So that's going to begin. And I wanted to highlight that. The Housing Accelerator Fund projects are moving along nicely. We had a meeting with CMHC to check in on how things are moving along, and in January we're going to be reporting back on the first year of progress. There is a report following this on the infill housing design competition, which we'll be launching in January as well. And then other than that, planning applications are low this quarter. In terms of building, which is a good thing for all the Housing Accelerator Fund projects we're working on. In terms of building, we're steady. The revenues are quite high this quarter and this year, which is great so far. So we've brought in just over $300,000 in revenues in the building department. And then to highlight for the bylaw department, this was a very busy quarter with complaints. So we had 228 calls for service, which is the most we've ever had. And then following that, there's been quite a lot of tickets issued. So 227 tickets were issued, and more than half of those were parking infractions. And there were a lot of bear complaints as well. So staff have been proactive in trying to get out there and communicate with businesses on making sure their attractants are put away and secured. And then business licenses have been great this year. And finally, residential guest accommodations. So far, we've received 27 TUP renewal applications, so those are going to be coming forward shortly. So there's a very quick highlight. Thank you.
Great, thanks. And I'll look to council for questions. We do have our senior building official in the room with us too, and our bylaw enforcement officer, who are presumably here to answer more detailed questions if there are any. Was that Councillor Lumley? Yeah.
Thank you, through the mayor. I just, the accelerator fund, I guess the $100,000 budget for the parking program, it says that urban systems, of course, but like, what's the parking program work? That was just I know it says staff will bring a report to inform council of the plan once finalized. Is that for the approval of the plan, or is it? Like to approve the plan that they're gonna, because obviously like parking's such a major issue on every single thing that, every development we do. I mean, obviously I have some strong, ideas or opinions that might be warranted. Was that the idea, is that they're gonna say, hey, here's what we're gonna do, and we can either add or subtract maybe what we might be thinking as a council?
Good question.
Through the mayor. Yeah, so that's a great one. We're looking at a work plan. So what we bring forward would be a work plan for what we're trying to accomplish in this parking strategy and get council feedback on what you'd want to add, what you'd want to remove, that kind of thing. So right now we're tweaking the work plan. And part of it is required, so what we applied for under the Housing Accelerator Fund, that we have to do, and then there's more work that we could look at, and that's where there's some flexibility that council could provide some input before we finalize the work plan.
Councillor Kroll? Councillor Gandretti? Oh, I see people moving their hands like this, and I assume it's a... But I saw it over there first and then over there. But yeah, that's I want to see that kind of vigor. Councillor Thompson gets to go first.
I'm throwing now.
More enthusiasm.
Yeah, with the TUP renewals, 27, is that, how does that compare to last year?
Through the mayor, we had 32 TUP applications for 35 business licenses. So this year we're at 27, so pretty close.
Okay. I think we have to ask about all these bylaw numbers, so that might mean Sue needs to come up. But I'd like to hear a little more about, it sounds like, I heard this is the highest. Is this like higher than the pandemic years when they skyrocketed then? Or are we just talking about the highest this year?
I think we're talking about the highest in Q3 this year.
The highest this year, yeah, because I know they really, really shot up when people had nothing to do but complain about each other during the pandemic. But I'm interested in just a little more, like what are we seeing out there? I see that a lot of them are for parking offenses. Does it have to do with stepping up enforcement though too, or 'cause I can imagine people have had their bad parking habits for a long time.
Is this in relation to complaints or to the tickets issued?
Well, they're basically the same number, aren't they? I see 227 and 228 overall.
So I think with, we get complaints about highway, but that's sort of all encompassing. So it can be an overgrown boulevard, Unattached trailers seem to be a big thing, camper vans that are being occupied overnight. And more recently, a common complaint is about the misuse of the EV stations. People are noticing when vehicles are parked there that shouldn't be, and then we're acting on those. And certainly with the tickets that are being issued, we do a lot of the 2-hour parking during the summertime to try and keep the spaces free for visitors in particular. So that we'll do twice a day and a big jump in the number there for tickets issued. I know one thing in the Q3 was the number of dog complaints was much higher than usual. And I think I did note that 11 of the 57 that we had was in part due to one dog. That's very distinctive. We had people were saying that a wolf was loose. It's a hybrid dog, so that accounted for a lot of the calls.
And it's not even a town of Gibsons dog.
No, it isn't, but he likes to
SCRD
come
dog.
and visit us, so what can you
Or
do?
SCRD incursion.
And then in the summertime, a common complaint with dogs is dogs being left in vehicles. We had 2 deceased dogs, a dog hit by a car, dogs chasing wildlife on the beaches in particular, missing dogs, found dogs. And then definitely in the summertime too, in Q3 in particular, we get a lot of complaints about blackberries. So overgrown properties where blackberries are encroaching. And that accounted for 11 such files. All kinds. We had
Wow.
turkeys on the loose, an injured seagull, a lot of deer calls.
It's just chaos out there.
Just something for everybody. It's been very busy.
Councillor Gandrati.
I would like to follow up on the bylaw. So first, just a clarification, when the report says bylaw notices, are they fines?
Those are tickets.
Okay, just tickets, yeah, okay. So with regards to the BlackBerry, because I have to say, I'm invaded by the neighbors' BlackBerries. They never care about it. I mean, I do my work, I don't complain, but I know that could be an issue for many properties. So you ticketing people at this point?
I don't think we've ever ticketed. We may have had to go and do some remedial work if people haven't cleared them back, at least sort of from the property line, so they're not encroaching. I don't think we've ever issued a ticket for that yet.
And maybe if I can ask more. So what are the 4 complaints on the recreational water lease? I'm just curious. And with regards to noise, are they complaints about dog noise or other source of noise? That means actually dog noise is reported under dog or under noise? Because I have been receiving so many complaints about dog noise, dogs yapping the whole day, throughout the day. And anyway, so I'm just curious maybe.
Yes.
Curious, so too, what do you do when when you receive complaints? I mean,
Well,
I wouldn't be taking, like,
well,
I hope you give them Sue's number.
No. I tell people to report. I say, look, this is not my jurisdiction. I encourage you to report. So I'm not following if they are reporting, but people, of course, they see me and they talk about, because it's just where I live, there's some annoying dogs. And I think it's, and it can be nice people. It's just like they don't have the awareness that they leave the dog outside. And anyone that walk in the street, the dog is yapping the whole day. Anyway, so I'm like, when you have a noise, if it's dog noise, if it's reported under noise or under dog, and what's going on in what kind of complaints happen in the
Go ahead.
So
recreational?
with barking dogs, that's categorized under dogs. And I believe in Q3 we had 11 complaints about dogs that bark, and they are tricky to deal with. I mean, people go out for the day, they're not aware maybe that the dogs are barking the whole time, so that they're kind of challenging cases. We try and work with the people to maybe find a way if they can put them in daycare, maybe once in a while, kind of break it up or take them with them. But that is difficult. Other kind of noises, this quarter we had a particular individual that drums a lot, and I think that was hard. Noise from a gym, noise from a restaurant playing music outside, construction noise, and noise from power tools.
Thank you. Any more questions on the Planning and Development Services report? Yeah, okay. Councillor.
Thank you, Mayor. That regards the OCP. I appreciate all the advertising that has been made, and I appreciate seeing the advertising on the newspaper, because given that about 60% of our population are seniors, I suspect that the majority of seniors are not super savvy. But my question is, I'm not sure, and that's my question, if the OCP would, during this interaction, if there will be some sort of question, where did you hear about the advertise? I thought would be useful, even if we have a sense of if it's, more seniors, do they say that is on the newspaper? Because even, I know the town does advertise on a newspaper, but even when we have information meetings, sometimes it doesn't go on the newspaper, and it would be nice to understand if even the majority of seniors, if they really are not necessarily on Facebook. I don't know.
Thank you, through the chair. That's a great question. We don't have that out. So it's not part of the survey, and we don't have a place to tick for that, but we'll certainly ask it, because it would be really good feedback to know how people are finding out about the engagement.
Other questions? Okay, we'll move on to kind of a sub point of which was mentioned in this report is the infill housing design competition, which is an exciting development here. And I'll go to our Director of Planning to present that.
Thank you, Mayor. So this is a Housing Accelerator Fund project, and it's an exciting project for us. The report is for information. There is a piece that council could give some direction on, which would be the incentive for the applicants. But this project is about the design competition that we're going to launch. And it's an infill housing design competition, and we're going to be looking at two different types of lots, which would be a small lot, and we'd like to see proposals for 3 to 4 units on a small lot, and then larger lots, which would be 5 to 6 units. The brief is still in draft form because we're still trying to figure out what the average small lot and average large lot in Gibsons is, and then we're going to figure out setbacks and the details. But we're hoping to launch this. We're planning to launch this competition in January, then do a technical review in the winter or spring of 2025, and then announce the winners in the spring. It is intended to respond to the housing need, and it has a list of identified goals in this project. And the reason we're bringing it to council is to get some feedback. If there's any goal that's missing or something you'd like added to it, we can tweak it right now because it hasn't been launched yet. So the intended goals are to streamline the approval process. So if we have pre-approved designs, then somebody wanting to build these could come forward and sort of pick a pre-approved plan that has been vetted by the town. And it's also an opportunity to showcase the potential of infill development that's thoughtful and that fits within the context of Gibsons. So it's intended to increase certainty for the development community. If somebody wants to build a fourplex, they could pick a pre-approved plan. It can demonstrate and inspire what's possible in the town. By having this competition, it can enhance affordability for developers and residents. It can streamline the development review process, and it can address key areas of housing need. So areas they're looking at is affordable rental housing, aging in place, attainable ownership, and housing for families. And it can build on the provincial design catalog that has just been released. So the province did release a design catalog. We've got steep slopes here, so we've got a few different things that we can tweak the design catalog or our design process to accommodate for our community. So there's 4 outcomes that we'd like to see. So we'd like to see affordability and cost effectiveness in the designs, flexibility and creativity, inclusivity and livability, and then good neighbors. So making sure it's not negatively impacting the neighbors. There's also a list of submission requirements, and then, which I don't need to go through all the details of that. But the panel is important. I wanted to bring the panel to council because there would be a panel of experts that would review all these designs, rate them, grade them essentially, and then select the top 3 winners. And then through this invited list of experts, we've received confirmation from most of them. We'd like to see 5 on the panel, and then we'd have a staff person. So our planner 2, Katie Thomas, has been the project lead on this project. But that's the process. So I don't need to go into more detail unless you have questions. But if there's anything missing in this proposal, then we're open to feedback so we can include it before we launch the project.
Okay, yeah, I have a couple questions myself, but I'll go to Councillor D'Andrade first. Okay. Well, I guess straight to the panel.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, 10 have been invited, right? So when I just saw this, I was like, this looks cumbersome. but we're actually aiming for 6? 5 people?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so there's some backup folks here that we're looking at.
Okay.
And
but-
some might want to submit.
Yeah, also that's my next
So,
question is like,
yeah.
I look at this panel and I go, these are the people I want to submit.
Yeah.
Like, so what, was there any thought to like maybe getting the ADP to do the actual panel work or it doesn't necessarily need to be the actual architecture community? Well, I mean, some of them are architects as well, but yeah, but not all. But I'm concerned that these may be the people we want to actually get designs from, not necessarily the people we want to judge designs.
Right. So there are a couple architects on the ADP who would probably want to submit. So we didn't include them on this list. But the list has a representation of people with experience building small homes, architects, planners, and then some from the local building community to really look at the design and have an understanding of the cost of construction so that they can look at the affordability component. So that's where the local building community is coming into this. We didn't look at the ADP because some members of the ADP would probably recuse themselves from it.
Okay, but none, we're pretty sure no one in the invited panel are actually they're interested in
We have confirmation from...
submitting, like actually being...
Oh, yeah, there's one person that might... So Coralie Bryn from Mobius Architecture, she may or may not participate. So
Yeah, I saw Mobius and I thought, well,
Mobius, yeah.
that's the first local firm I'd be looking to probably actually submit and maybe have a, yeah.
Yeah, so if she does submit, we might be looking at an alternate. We've got some backup architects that are not necessarily local that might be willing to sit on the panel.
Okay, Councillor D'Andrade?
Thank you, Mayor. I have I'll start with 2 questions. First, I just want to understand, since council ultimately look at form and character, and this will have implications in form and character, does it mean that there's a selection and then ultimately comes to council for final decision, or they select and we already automatically, because they won the competition? So I want to understand the process first. And then why only 3 designs and maybe not 4 or 5 if they are all beautiful?
Okay,
So the idea was to have the three top designs and maybe have an incentive, like a winning prize, to try and get people to submit their applications or proposals. we might end up with a tie. I don't know. But it's a way to narrow it down. And then the question about the process. So it would go to, so the idea is that council looks at the panel of experts and sort of endorses the process. And then the expert panel would review these with the lens and the criteria and then grade. So on the very last page of this design brief, it goes over the panel evaluation criteria and how they grade each section. So how they grade affordability and cost effectiveness, how they're going to be looking at the good neighbor design, livability and flexibility. And then the panel would select, based on the 5 on the panel, they would deliberate it, select the winners, and then we would present that to council as the 3 winning designs.
Melissa?
Thank you. So I really like the idea of having a competition for it, but I was thinking maybe we could make it more communal. So when they're judged and you have the 3 final designs, I think it'd be neat if you like even had a vote from the community to see which one they like the best and maybe weigh it in when it's being decided. Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder about that, and maybe it could be an alternate. That connects to Councillor DeAndrade's connection too, is like, or point too, is it ultimately council's decision? And maybe we could be looking at the rankings of a review panel plus other opinions too. And I feel like other ones I've seen, like Nelson did it, I felt like maybe it was more, I don't know if it had an expert panel or it was more a vote from the community. I thought there was some that were a little more open.
We could. So there's many ways to do this. If council wants to be, if you want to be the one looking at the designs and deliberating them and judging them. No. Well, that's why this has a third party. Then you don't have to go through that process, but you would look at it. And to your point about opening it to the broader community, we could. I'll take that back and think about how we could do that, but there probably is a way to just get a vote from the public. And I don't know how much weight you'd put on that, but I think we'd have to figure out how that fits into the evaluation process.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea, because obviously these need to meet certain standards, and a lot of these are going to be coming from architects who know the standards they need to meet. That's why I've kind of, the very first thing I thought of is it looks like a lot of the experts are people who could also be providing good submissions to us. So it might be helpful to look more to the community to do some of the assessment, the ranking of what they like in terms of form and character. Are there other questions, Councillor Thompson?
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to comment that I thought the panel evaluation criteria was spot on. I didn't have anything to add. I thought that was very well done.
Thank you.
Councillor DeAndrade?
Thank you, Mayor. I have questions regarding design parameters. With regard, for example, 50 site coverage, because that's one of my concerns with densification. Obviously, we want densification, but there's a trade-off. So what does it mean, the 50 site coverage here, and how this fits the urban forest plan? I mean, how this goes along, right? Because the plan is coming, and obviously we'll provide guidelines, and so this is one of the questions. And actually, it's interesting because here it says approximately 31%, excuse me, tree canopy, which is a decent. It seems to be in balance with other experts in this regard with ideal tree canopy, but how does it gonna go along with the 50% coverage? And what does it mean actually?
Director?
Thank you. So the 31% tree canopy goal is something we've discussed internally. That's the direction of the urban forest plan. So for infill housing development. So that's why we've got that 31% tree canopy target in there. And if the proposal doesn't meet it, they're going to lose some points for it. And if they meet it, they get the full points for it. In terms of lot coverage, so the lot coverage is basically, from a bird's eye view, if you're looking down on the property, what is non-permeable land. So that could be a driveway if it's concrete. It could be the footprint of the house. It could be any additional sheds or storage areas. So the target of 50% is quite low for small-scale multi-unit housing. But what we've heard from the Residents' Assembly, and we're going to find out if we're going to hear it more from the broader community, is that there's a preference for building taller homes, not wider homes, to maintain that lower lot coverage to allow for permeability and aquifer infiltration. So that's why we've got the 50% target. It's right now we're still working through the OCP and we're going to be working through the zoning bylaw process. So if there's some interest in council to increase that to a higher lot coverage, we can do that. And that could allow for more space and lower heights potentially.
I am starting to get concerned about time because we need to do that by 5:30. Just so everybody knows. AGM 5:30. One more question. Sorry, one more question from Councillor Andretti.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, it's hard to say because this not should be just an opinion. This should be an expert opinion. But I think one thing I would like just to flag is obviously height. It is a good way because you increase the surface area. But my only concern, and I think it would depend perhaps on location, it's shade on the other lot, knowing that many people like to grow food at we are in a rural area, which growing food, it's many people appreciate that. So if there's a way of balancing how to go about that, I think that's the ideal. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We're moving on to our Infrastructure Services Department report, Q3. I will ask if there are any kind of updates or highlights first, but otherwise we can just go straight to questions for council.
Yeah, thank you. It's a pretty robust report. I'll spare the time and straight to questions.
Yeah, and thank you for being here on behalf of the Director of Infrastructure. Are there any questions from council on this? It is okay, Councillor D'Andrade.
Thank you. What does it mean, parkland hypochlorite dosing improvements? Is it adding more chlorine or something completely different?
Through the mayor, yeah, just improvements on the system, the pumping system, and the automated control system. So not adding any extra chlorine or anything.
Thank you. Councillor Kroll.
Thank you, Mayor White. The question I had to do is a pump replacement at Prowse Road Lift Station, and I don't know if you have the background on that, but I thought it was a relatively new installation, and I'm just wondering, is it something like the pump failed? Was it still under warranty? What was the cause of its failure?
Manager?
Yeah, through the chair. Yeah, it was a topside failure, so it basically got overrun. It was unforeseen. So we pulled it, had it sent out. We have a spare pump. We installed that, so everything was okay because we only have 2 pumps there. So when one pump goes out, we're very concerned. And we had that pump shipped off and sent back. So when that one came back, we actually shipped the other one out for just a regular maintenance, so that we didn't have to have those extra costs to come out of nowhere. So,
Councillor Lemley.
Yeah, through the mayor, I'm just gonna go, like, I agree with you, all the reports are well-written, concise. I really like the trend, but I was gonna go off the report a bit, and, I mean, it might be too early, but I just, when it rains and you hear, atmospheric rivers and stuff like that, I know we rely on natural assets or a program of natural assets. So the first thing I think of as I'm out in the rain and staring at the rain and listening to the rain all night, like how is everything, was there anything to, did everything function properly? I always, because if I go down to the lower Gibsons, I know the storm drain, I know like what everyone else probably in the world relies on is like catching water, running down the streets through like catchments and stuff, and then, because that pipe down by the wharf was just absolutely blasting water, like, 12 feet this big around out of I've never seen it before. So my question was just, I don't know if you can report or.
Yeah, you bet. Through the
Great
mayor.
question, yeah.
I would say I give us an A, like a report of an A. We did a good job. You can't foresee like the wind breaking branches off and plugging culverts and having one-off situations, which is probably going to happen every time. We only had one call for that. And White Tower Pond did an amazing job doing what it was designed to do. And I think half of the staff at the town was interested and went out on their own to check on it as well. So
I saw a photo on Facebook show up on Saturday. I was thinking, wow, people are out working and celebrating this on the weekend. It was great, yeah. Councillor Kroll.
Through you, just to the point of the White Tower Pond, it really was impressive to see I'd been by there earlier in the week and, I told some people about it and we went up to have a look at it, and to go see it on the weekend, it was like, oh my God, the amount of water that it had buffered. So really impressive. Thank you.
Technician.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, or Chair, Mayor. Just one comment on the White Tower Pond is that we were quite excited to see how it worked in that storm. And one of the things that we have been playing with or figuring out is that the outfall of the pond has a gate to like close off the outflow. And so we can adjust how that gate is closed. And so we couldn't see where the gate was at on the weekend because it was so submerged, but we went back yesterday and we found that we only have the gate open a portion, and so we are controlling the flow, so it's not just going straight out. And we found that there was no flooding within the park itself that there was in other high rain events before the pond was put in. So it's working quite well, and we still have additional capacity.
Great. Other questions from council? Okay, well, we'll go straight to the next item on the agenda, which is quite a significant item that's snuck in here in within the quarterly reports, which is our corporate climate action plan. And our natural asset technician is here to report on that.
Thank you, Mayor. So the staff report was quite brief. It's really just a presentation or a introduction to the corporate climate action plan that staff worked on with the Community Energy Association. And so Ali and Catherine from CEA will be doing the presentation when we're ready. It's just bringing them in.
Welcome.
I'll try to
Thanks, Daniel.
load the presentation and then we'll go from there. See my screen?
Yes.
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, thank you. I'm Ali Ergüdenler. I'm the project manager for Gibsons Corporate Energy and Emissions project. Also joining me today is my colleague Catherine McDougall, who worked on the emissions inventory and plan development phases of this project. As part of the corporate energy and emissions plan development, Community Energy Association completed a detailed energy and emissions inventory for the town of Gibsons. And this exercise included the contracted services fleet as well. I will start my presentation with a brief background on the project and present our findings regarding the energy and emissions inventory, including future projections. Then I will highlight some of the key actions in the plan and conclude my presentation with proposed corporate targets. Some background. Obviously, town's 2023-2027 strategic plan provides the main direction for the corporate plan, which was initiated in September 2023. The town's climate action charter commitment was another key driver for the development of this plan. The corporate plan offers many benefits in addition to fulfilling the climate action charter commitments. The plan would help reduce energy expenditures, improve services, and also help demonstrate leadership. There are several benefits associated with the development and implementation of this plan. Gibsons was one of the first municipalities that started implementing climate actions many years ago. These include the implementation of energy efficiency measures in buildings. The town also explored opportunities for solar power generation and invested in the electrification of the municipal fleet. Good progress was made in reducing solid waste generation and energy optimization for the wastewater treatment plant, which also helped increase resiliency of the sewer system. Let's have a look at the energy and emissions inventory, the findings from our analysis. The inventory results show that diesel fuel used in medium and heavy-duty vehicles, contracted services trucks in particular, is the main source of greenhouse gas emissions. This was followed by gasoline for light-duty vehicles and electricity and natural gas consumed by buildings. And as you can see on the graph on the left, diesel fuel is the main contributor to greenhouse gas emissions. The graph on the right shows the provincial expenditures on energy. Electricity, as you can see, has the largest share in energy costs, accounting for approximately $230,000 annually. Diesel also has a high share in energy costs when contracted services are included. As you may have noticed, although it has a high share in costs, electricity consumption only contributes 6% of total greenhouse gas emissions, because in BC we have a relatively clean grid. After vehicles, the facilities are the second major source of greenhouse gas emissions. The first two graphs show the top 5 energy users and greenhouse gas emitters for the municipal buildings. Energy use and greenhouse gas emissions for the wastewater treatment plant is much higher than other buildings. Public Works shop, arts building, School Road Reservoir are the other top GHG emitters. The Public Works shop, as well as the arts building, although they're not on one of the top energy users, they rank second and third in greenhouse gas emissions due to higher natural gas use compared to other facilities that mostly use electricity. After completing the energy and emissions inventory, we developed a list of actions. There are a total of 22 actions identified in the plan. We suggest implementing those actions within the next 5 to 7 years. Several tools and guidance are provided in the report for successful implementation of those actions. Also, a number of external funding opportunities were outlined in the report. FCM, BC Hydro, Fortis BC, and senior governments have several funding sources to support the implementation of climate actions. CEA also worked closely with BC Hydro to create new shared corporate energy manager service, which we believe would make it attractive to local governments which cannot afford to hire energy managers to assess and implement energy efficiency measures. The proposed actions were grouped under 5 categories, which are new and existing buildings, renewable energy, transportation and fleet, and enabling actions. Implementation details for each action are provided in the report. The table on the right is an example showing the implementation details for a couple of actions for fleet vehicles, including the contracted services fleet. The draft plan recommends prioritization of key actions. Converting diesel fleet to renewable diesel has the biggest potential to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in a relatively short period of time. We looked at the impacts of 30% and 100% conversion to renewable diesel or biodiesel, and these are 2 separate fuel types, including the emissions from contracted services fleet. There are additional costs associated with these and some logistical issues that needs to be investigated. Investing in electric vehicles and EV charging infrastructure, as well as retrofitting buildings, especially retrofitting the low carbon alternatives, retrofitting to low carbon alternatives can also result in significant greenhouse gas reductions. We also believe that developing vehicle purchasing policy and low carbon fuel policy for contracted fleets have a role to play in reducing emissions and should be further explored for implementation. These are the projections for the emissions. The first one is the business as usual forecast, and the second one is the projections for the plan, including the model emissions. It is projected that the town's GHG emissions would increase slightly in the future if no actions were taken. Implementing the proposed actions, however, would help reduce the greenhouse gas emissions significantly in the next 5 to 7 years. Even switching to 30% renewable diesel would help reduce greenhouse gas emissions significantly, as you can see in the graph on the right. The next slide shows the projections to 2050 and potential reductions to meet corporate greenhouse gas targets. Our projections show that 30% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions from 2022 levels is achievable by 2030 when you implement the actions outlined in the plan, which also includes 30% conversion of diesel fleet to renewable diesel. If the entire diesel fleet, including the contractor's fleet, is converted to 100% renewable diesel, it is possible to achieve 75% reduction from 2022 levels by 2030, as you can see on the graph on the right. The proposed target for 2030 is 30% from 2022 levels by 2030. We think it is possible to achieve and go beyond this target if the proposed actions are implemented. The draft plan also recommends carbon neutral target by 2050, which is the IPCC target that most local governments have adopted. This concludes my presentation. Catherine and I will be happy to answer your questions.
Thank you. Now I guess my first question is to staff as well. What's next, I think, because I mean, this could be quite an intensive conversation. I didn't know there was going to be a presentation as well, and I've kind of reflected on this and thought this could have been just a meeting on its own, maybe like a special committee of the whole or a workshop, but maybe there's going to be some of that. Maybe there's a plan for further dialogue or Director of Finance.
Yes, Mayor White, it may sound a bit boring, but as part of the budget process and asset management planning by the asset classes of fleet, buildings, waste, et cetera, this year we are beginning the integration of asset management and climate. So this plan and its targets and its suggestions, to the extent that it's practical with the money and the time it takes to transition things, will be picked up and reflected there. So council can be sure that, I mean, since staff are already charged with that responsibility, that this report is going to be very helpful for that initial integration this year. And council will see that right through next March 2025. Thank you.
Great. So we'll be continuing to see the content of this report in further work and planning. Councillor Kroll.
Thank you, Mayor White. It's a great report, and it's really interesting how deep it does dive into what impacts our greenhouse gas emissions. So I would like to move the recommendation that the corporate action plan be endorsed and that staff be directed to incorporate it into the 2025 work plan and budget.
I will second that. I think we certainly need to do this part, even if there are some more questions or comments from councillors. So on the motion, Councillor D'Andrade.
Thank you, Mayor. So I'll ask the three questions I have. So the first one is how community greenhouse gases emissions are calculated. I have a good understanding of how buildings are calculated, but just the community, it's the highway, all these vehicles passing, how does it work? My second is if there are examples of local carbon offset projects applicable to the town of Gibsons, because there's a suggestion we can offset project, but what would be examples that we could do? And my third question,
Could we just keep it at maybe at least one at a time? Because I can't even process all these.
Okay.
So I don't know if we're,
Okay.
let's just keep
Thank
it as simple as possible for our presenters and staff. So we've got two questions. I don't know if you even caught both. I didn't even catch both of them, so.
Yes.
Okay.
So the
we'll
first
stick to the two.
question through you, Mr. Mayor, regarding community emissions. So we are, in the staff report, I said that we have applied for a grant for a community energy and emissions plan. Well, it's called a low carbon resilience climate action plan. So that would be looking at community emissions. And so that we would, again, be working with Ali and his team at the CEA. So we're hoping to begin that project in Q4.
And that was the Green Municipal Fund application, or is that something else?
Yes. Yeah.
Maybe. I'm just asking if that, the application was.
The
to
application,
Green
yes,
Municipal-
is that through the Green Municipal Fund, yes.
Just regards to, because there's a figure already there, that's why I was curious, there's a figure there that, okay, that's what I.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, and Ali, forgive me if I've got this incorrect, but I believe that those community targets would be based on the SCRD's community emissions plans that they've done in years past.
Sorry, the corporate targets or the community targets? The targets that we have presented today?
In the report, Ali, we had talked about how the corporate targets were only a portion of what the community emissions would be. And so I think the question was, which emissions of community were you referencing there?
Yeah, I mean, the corporate responsibilities, again, primary leadership and keeping your house in order. It is a smaller portion of the overall community emissions. But as you mentioned, there is a community plan we have approved funding to proceed with. And then we will come up with, an acceptable target for the community as well. And that might be different than the corporate target.
Yeah, sensibly. But yeah, I also think it's very important that we show leadership on this, and it's that the timing's good that we've done our corporate plan first, I think, before we look at a community plan. Okay, and do you remember the second question? See, probably not. So just we'll go to the second question.
It's the suggestion that I just want to know examples of local carbon offsets that we could do in the case of the town of Gibsons.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I believe that would come out when we're working on work plans and budgets for upcoming projects to implement this, that we would be looking at considerations.
And third question?
The third question is if the budget, the next conversations in the budget, if we could have a specific line for climate action. So instead of distributing between the different departments, we could really see, and then we can choose the actions that we could afford at the determined year. Thank you.
Director of Finance?
Yes, through Mayor White, it's critical actually to break this apart. It has to go to the different sections. But what you're looking to see actually when you integrate it is shown. So just a quick example, picture your fleet. You have all these heavy pieces of equipment and your regular smaller vehicles. You would just simply put on your sheet of all these vehicles as they turn over and worn out, flip for something new, that at certain points, the little ones are automatically switched for electrical. By 2030, you want to have all the small items already flipped over to electrical. Then maybe by 2035, 40, 45, you want a certain amount of your heavy equipment off diesel, maybe to hydrogen, maybe to renewable diesel, maybe to electricity, depending. So you get all of those things put on a sheet so that you can see on one sheet how you're transitioning from a climate perspective. So the thing about climate change and transitioning is not about line items and budgets, it's about actions and choices in your procurement. And integrated asset management sheets show you that. And I haven't seen them here, but certainly I was serving them up at my last employer. Thank you.
Thanks. Other councillors, any questions? And we do have a motion on the I recall that. Councillor Kroll.
Thank you, Mayor White. And it's not so much a question, it's a comment. In this report, the significance of biodiesel or synthetic diesel makes a huge statement in what it can reduce in carbon emissions. And I've mentioned it before, I really do think we need to encourage the film industry that comes into this community to be green. Because when you look at the town in this report, they're saying the town's emission is 351 tons of CO2 emissions, and 8 episodes of an hour-long TV series is 568 tons of CO2 emissions. So I think we really need to advocate. If we're going to practice this as a community, we need to extend it to people to come in and.
I think that would come under the community action plan that we're very hopeful we're going to get funding for and work on in the next year.
Thank you.
We have a motion on the table, and are people ready to vote on that? Okay, all those in favor? The motion carries. So I'd like to thank our presenters for your work on this plan, your great work, and for being with us this afternoon. And now we're on to the item 4.5, the Corporate Administration and Legislative Services Department Q3 report, and just check to see if there's any updates to the written material or highlights to our corporate officer.
I think the report pretty much speaks for itself. The manager of Corporate and Legislative Services is here, as well as the communications coordinator, if you have any questions for us.
Great. Looking to council for any questions. Councillor DeAndrade.
Thank you. I really appreciate seeing that, a complaint of an indigenous community member who mentioned about that the town has the duty to consult with indigenous residents when processing our tree removal. So I'm just wondering where we are at this point with this.
Okay. Well, it's in the report, so I'll look to whoever.
I think the conversation was held with the natural asset technician as to what could be done around that. It turned out that the concerns raised by the complainant were not, she didn't accurately actually assess what had occurred. So we were able to correct that information. She connected with the property owner. We did hear that, and I know that the development of the urban forest plan, that there is a process for connecting with the Squamish Nation. And I did refer the complainant to the person we were dealing with through the Squamish Nation, so she could reach out to them directly as well.
Other questions? Okay, great. Thank you for the report. Very informative as usual. And next we have the Finance and Human Resources Department Q3 report, which is item 4.6 on the agenda. I'll look to our Director of Finance to see if there's nothing. So any questions? Is that quizzical look a question? Councillor Lemley, go for it. What's on your mind, or you sweat?
I was going to try and find it because I read it earlier, obviously, but now I'm going to just ask them through the mayor. It said there was, sorry, it said there was a excessively large, ratio or number of injuries or people, and then the next sentence down, I said, I think there's an audit being done, an audit being prepared to kind of, I guess, maybe inform staff that why this is maybe an issue with the town of Gibsons. I just wanted, I don't know if you had anything to add or it's short, so.
Yeah, so this would be in the HR section of the report and under health and safety.
Through the mayor, I can just clarify a few items. Our WorkSafe rate is generally higher, although we were reassessed for prior years in recent times and got a refund. So our HR function is working with infrastructure and the other departments that are direct service delivery to reduce that. I believe the audit that's mentioned in this report should be seen more as an opportunity. So those organizations that were quick to express enthusiasm in having one of these conducted were selected. And that will help us get some third-party input on how we're doing and suggestions about how to advance things. And also there's ever-increasing regulation on the WorkSafe side. And as a result of doing this work, it will help us be in compliance a lot faster. Other than that, I haven't dealt into the same kind of depth that our HR manager has here, but I think things are actually heading in a positive direction.
Okay. Other questions? No? Okay, so thank you for the report. It was all there. Now, as connected to finance, we have our 2025 operations review, and I have to admit, I didn't get a chance to see this to let council know. I didn't get a chance to see this at agenda review, and it may be something that we should look at a future meeting, because I'm actually, it'll be good to get it introduced here, and maybe that'll help us understand it, and understand where it fits to the current budget process and to how we've done things in the past. But I need to, just speaking for myself, I need to at least make that first step before I even consider any recommendations, because I'm not sure yet. So but that's just me. So I just wanted to put that out there first. I'm sure other councillors might feel the same, because it is something that's new to us. But I'll go to our Director of Finance to start things off.
Thank you, Mayor White. Yes, it is a bit new, but not really. So we're in the process of sorting out what should be changed in the 2025 operating base budget. And what do you do with an operating base budget? You deliver a basket of services at specified levels. So over recent years, council has become familiar with an annual review of the staffing levels, because half of delivering the basket of services, the cost, is the people who will make that happen for the town. And then a gap we have is, okay, that's great. So we have a way of assessing how things are going on the people side, and where there might be gaps and where it might be wise to spend more money. What about the non-people side, the other half of the money that gets spent? So this is the service review, in a sense, is just flies by all your departments and all your clear service functions, and it calls out, how's it going there? And council shouldn't have any surprises. If they know that something's going badly in a particular department, they should expect to see it stated here that it's going badly, or if they know things are going well, that's what they should expect to read. And as it runs through, a lot of departments and functions don't need any more equipment or more materials and supplies or whatever it is they need to do their work. But you run across spots where they do. So by doing this fairly quick but effective process, you call out the things that we have gaps. So in this particular report, in the summary, we have a list of proposed resolutions that collect the gaps that were identified. So with those resolutions, it's clear what the function is, say water utility, what the recommendation is to do, the request for a resolution, and all the money items that were put there this year, rather than saying, okay, this function needs 25,000 more, was just, okay, well, it's clear enough it might need more. What we're looking for as staff is the ability to walk away and say, well, for all these items where it's flagging a variety of things might need up to 40,000 more, is to get the support from council to go away and see if we can sort out a way of reasonably increasing the overall cost of the operating budget and accommodate as many of these things as we can, because it won't be possible to accommodate them all. I mean, I could keep going, but I think I should stop, because there might be a question. I don't know whether I've helped council better understand this report or not.
Where's the template come from for this? Because I mean, it doesn't seem to be, it's like a necessarily town services, because there are, when I just going through the template, for example, it gets to transit and then it says none, you know, so I assume this is a template from somewhere else that we're.
The only template it is it's something that I authored and have gradually introduced over time in Williams Lake, in Smithers, and using those examples of it's also to clarify thinking on things. So for example, a lot of people at the town think we don't do waste because we outsourced it, but that's not true. We do waste, and we've chosen not to do it in-house. So we've outsourced it, but there's still a lot that goes on in-house. And then as part of waste, a section in here is waste is so expensive you cannot afford to ignore what the SCRD is doing for you and what's going on with the landfill. So again, it's a way of running through, or choices. So for example, Gibsons Fire and Rescue is provided as a service through the regional district. But I have heard on the 2 recent reports from the fire chief, he's clearly expressed concerns over the equipment that he has. So it's always raising the question to council. Council might, on behalf of the community, be perfectly fine with all of these services being carried out through other bodies, the regional district, or through contract with third parties. But it's just flagging, okay, you get some benefits that way, and you have to realize you're giving up some control. And maybe they go about planning it more efficiently isn't actually the best for Gibsons. Are you willing to keep supporting that because of regional benefits?
Yeah, so I think, I mean, kind of what I'm hearing more is that this is almost a strategic planning conversation, really. It's like, it's really, we're talking about how we support fire or transit or things that are like, well, yeah, I mean, really big picture stuff. So I feel like this should almost be a meeting on its own. Like it's with our CAO here too. I think it'd be really helpful to have Manny present to help with this. So, and I don't know if I mean, this is a good opportunity to ask questions for council, but where I'm going with this is to refer it to a future meeting. Is my
and Mayor White, what we were trying to do this year was, or through the balance of 25, looking for update information, we're trying to incorporate into the existing meeting structure. But I agree, if there is more meeting time available, this is at least the first time anyway. It's worth a small meeting on its own.
Councillor Lumley.
I couldn't agree more, and I like this. And it comes in a form somewhat what, I mean, I'm not going to say I was asking for the last 10 years, but it's always better, and I appreciate getting it before. Like, it's, the budget process to me seems so kind of onerous in the fact that you're just rolling out these massive sheets and you know, and then we're line by line going over the budget. It would be so much better to have a general idea of, hey, here's the areas that we think we should increase the budget. And it's exactly, this screams of the problems with the regional district, or this doesn't scream of it, sorry, because we just had a fire commission meeting, and the problem isn't the cost of things or things breaking down. The problem is they're not being budgeted. So every year, like a maintenance budget or something, every year, an organization comes to you or the regional district and says, hey, we're $100,000 over budget. We need $100,000 because we've already spent it. This could be a better solution to never coming up with that, and I agree, it should be a separate meeting. So I look forward to having a separate, I'll put the time aside to do it for sure.
Councillor Kroll.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor White. And, you know, I found this really sort of enlightening. And to sort of Councillor Lumley's points, you know, we go into budget, we get a report from staff what they would like, but this sort of strategically pinpoints things where we really need to give it more attention, and we need to see where the weaknesses may lay. So I totally support spending more time on this, and really appreciate the effort the Director of Finance and his team have gone to prepare this for us, because it certainly I think it's critically important to know where our Achilles heels are.
Okay, thanks. Councillor Andrade?
Yeah, and just to follow up, I appreciate because we are moving forward to every infrastructure, whether natural or man-made, to look at risks. And this is a good, I appreciate that because you're assessing in terms of risk-based, right? Risk-based and managing based on risk. So this is I appreciate the way it lays out.
Okay. So we will, we'll look at scheduling, whether it's a special committee of the whole or a workshop. I'll talk to staff about that. If anyone has any input on what they'd like to see, let me know now. Or you can also let me know after the meeting, but we'll try to work something out that fits this topic well. Thanks. We've received everything when we started the meeting, yeah. So we need a motion to close now, based on sections 1C, 1K, 1M, and 2D of the community charter, and all those sections are listed on our agenda. Councillor Kroll, seconded by Councillor Andrade. All those in favor? The motion carries to close.